Hi, this is Viridian. This is my second video blog, and today I'm going to talk about Gizmondo and the game I made while I was there. It was called Hit and Myth. About a year and a half ago, I was working for a company that made video slot machines and video bingo games for casinos. And that was a really good company. Honestly, I can't say anything bad about it. It was a great company, and great people worked there. They were the first company to give me a programming job. I loved them to death, but I didn't consider it to be real game development. And I'd been there for about 3.5 years, and I guess I just started feeling it was time to do something else. Now, initially, I wasn't going to leave that company. I was going to make little indie games by myself and sell them over a website. That was the initial plan. So I actually bought my web space, which is where my blog is now. I'd actually come up with a name for my company, Viridian Games, and I'd actually designed the first game I was going to make. And a couple days after I'd taken these steps, I was hanging out in an IRC channel devoted to game development, and someone came in and said, "Are there any game developers from Austin here?" And I put my hand up and said, "I'm a game developer from Austin," and he implored me to apply at his company because they just lost a bunch of people to NCSoft. So I asked him the name of the company. He said it was called Gizmondo Studios, Texas. And I went ahead and sent him a resume, thinking, what could it hurt? And they called me in for an interview. They asked me a whole bunch of questions, like they do during an interview. And they showed me the games that they were working on. They showed me Johnny Whatever, and they showed me Hit and Myth. And Johnny Whatever was very impressive looking, but Hit and Myth was also a very interesting looking game. And so they said, all right, we've got everything we need from you, and we'll call you in a couple days to let you know. And so I, sat on pins and needles for a couple days, and then they called me and said, "Hey, we like you. You're hired," which was awesome. Now, let me give you a little history of the studio. Gizmondo Studios, Texas had previously been a studio called Fever Pitch Studios, and they'd made a game called Conquest Frontier Wars. These were some guys who broke off from Digital Anvil. And they got into some financial straits because Conquest hadn't sold very well, even though it was a very good game. And they'd sold out to a company called Warthog Studios, and they'd effectively kind of merged with Warthog. And then that merged company got into financial straits again, and so they sold out to Gizmondo. And you may be thinking, how could they sell out to Gizmondo? Didn't they know? And the answer, of course, is no, we didn't know. How are we supposed to know? The thing is, the reason this happened, the reason we got suckered like this, was because there was an actual product. They were actually making Gizmondos. You could hold one in your hand, and they actually had games out for it already that you could play. And so it seemed like something that was going to be around. No, it wasn't going to be a PSP killer, but it seemed like something that was going to be around. It didn't seem like a scam at the time. So I started working at Gizmondo, and I started working on a game called Hit and Myth. And you may ask yourself, well, what was Hit and Myth? And I've got something special for you today. I'm going to show you the intro movie from Hit and Myth. It's something no one's ever seen before. So here it is. Enjoy.
For millennia, the residents of the myth worlds busied themselves about their various concerns without suspecting the truth, that they were being scrutinized and studied by a malignant force from beyond space and time. With infinite complacency, they went about their daily affairs, while across the black sea of infinity an elder demon regarded the myth worlds with envious eyes, and slowly drew his plans against them. Now, an unlikely hero must rise to defend the dimensions of myth and magic against this Stygian abomination, and restore balance to the multiverse.
Congratulations, Private Cadbury. Welcome to ADHD.
But I'm in the officer's reserve program. 1 weekend a month and all that?
Buck it up, son. There's a war on.
Bollocks.
Good morning, recruit. Welcome to the Arcane Department of Heroic Defense. They call me the Big Kahuna. You can call me Sir. Now let's get down to brass tacks. We got trouble. Trouble with a capital T, and that rhymes with D, and that stands for demon. More precisely, an elder demon by the name of Cthulhu. His plan, near as we can figure, is to break out of his hell dimension and ransack the myth worlds. If he gets loose, well, the best any of us can hope for is to be eaten last. Our only hope is to retrieve 4 ancient artifacts known as the Keystones of Chaos. Once assembled, the Keystones will open a portal to Cthulhu's interdimensional temple. That's the only place this creep can be defeated. Trouble is, the stones were dispersed across the myth worlds eons ago, during the Chupacabra Wars. Now we found the location of the first stone. You are to translocate to that dimension immediately. But remember, over the centuries, the residents of these myth worlds have been twisted by the Keystones. They'll be like rabid dogs, hostile, bitter, and extremely sarcastic. Now I want you armed, heavily armed. This here is called the Superluminal Quantum Infused Repeating Transmogrifier. That's a mouthful, so we'll just use the acronym. The beauty of the squirt gun is you can modify it on the fly for short periods of time and change its functionality. Keep an eye out for special weapon pickups. Now, there's no time for advanced spellcaster training, so you'll just have to pick that up as we go along. I'll be in touch via interdimensional transmission. Time's a-wasting, soldier. Prepare for translocation.
Amazing, huh? Even in that short little clip, the genius shines through. Alright, we understood that we weren't making a Game of the Year contender here. Hidden Myth was basically a Smash TV clone with a lot of snarky humor in it. But we did want to make it the best Smash TV clone with snarky humor in it that we could make. So we did a whole lot of work getting the game ready for E3. And I guess I've got to make a little aside here that honestly, even though it took me a long time to get into game development, and even though I've never actually shipped a game as a programmer, I am a lucky man because I was able to work for Origin Systems, and there are only a few people in the world who can say that, and I had a game shown on the floor at E3, and there aren't that many people who can say that either, and now there won't ever be any ever again, apparently. Gizmondo had a booth at E3. They had a huge booth for some reason, and Hidden Myth was there along with Johnny Whatever and all the other Gizmondo games, and people actually played them, and GameSpot did a write-up on Hidden Myth, which made me happy. And so then E3 was over, and it was time to push to the final. The game needed to be out for Christmas, which means it needed to be done by around the end of September. And so we were working, and everything was fine until around August, when the perfidiousness of our corporate masters in Europe began to show through, and they demanded that we reduce headcount. Now, there were about 30 of us at the time, and I think about half of us ended up getting let go. And I was actually one of them. Yeah, I was fired. Except I didn't actually leave. See, everybody there seemed to like me, and the other guys on the project seemed to think that, they just weren't going to be able to finish this on time without me. So they kind of sneakily kept me on the payroll, even though I was supposed to be gone. Don't tell anybody. And then the studio head, Eric Peterson, was able to keep me on full-time eventually, and that was great. Although it does make me feel kind of bad for everybody else who got let go. Especially guys like Chet Pendleton and Camille Kaneko, who were much better programmers than me. They got let go when I got to stay, and it wasn't fair at all. But honestly, the Purge was good for Hidden Myth, because now we didn't have enough people to work on 2 games at once. We barely had enough people to work on one, so everybody was working on Hidden Myth. And the game actually got a lot of new features and a lot of very nice graphical upgrades that it wouldn't have gotten if it hadn't been for us having to let half our people go. I think we ended up with about 18 people after everything was done. My friend Tom Maurer made a whole lot of graphical improvements to both the user interface and inside the game. I was barely having enough time to make everything functional. He was the one who went back and made everything pretty. And so we pushed on towards final. And it was starting to get kind of antsy, Starting to get everyone was starting to get a little worried. Things just didn't seem to be going great. But we were working, we were doing our job. We were pushing towards final, and we actually hit final when we were supposed to around the end of September. And then we found out that Gizmondo couldn't afford the Xforge license that we had been using to make this game. Xforge is a library that allows you to make a Pocket PC game pretty easily. and we've been using it to make this game a hit and myth. And then we found out that Gizmondo, our parent company, couldn't afford the license to the library that we'd already used. And so we had to strip Xforge out and rewrite everything that we had done with Xforge using our own code. That took about 6 weeks, and it was hard. And then we got that done, we got it shipped off, and it was certified. I mean, the game was ready to go. And that was about the point at which the company started to fall apart. It became obvious that this company had never been anything more than a scam. Its founders had developed it, had created it specifically to either sell for lots of money, or so they could bilk their investors out of lots of money. Gizmondo was never intended to succeed. And that hurt. So Hit and Myth never shipped, and we were all out of jobs around the end of 2005, and it was pretty bad. Towards the end, we started calling ourselves Fever Pitch Studios again. We dropped the Gizmondo name entirely, and I still keep track of my friends from Fever Pitch because honestly, that was the best job I've ever had. Those 10 months when I was working at Gizmondo were awesome. It was almost like belonging to a club instead of having to go to work. I got along great with everybody there. Everybody there seemed to like me. I learned so much from Ryan and Tom, and I'm still learning. We would do things like we'd go to lunch practically every day together, the entire company, and we'd sit around at lunch and eat good food and have long conversations about game design and game development. And it was just a fantastic experience from beginning to end. It was the kind of experience that I was expecting to have at Origin and then never got. And I really miss it, I'll be honest. At this point, I mean, we're all scattered to the winds. Most of us have gotten other jobs elsewhere. Some of us went to NCSoft, some of us went to Amaze. My friend Tom Maurer and I are now working at Aspire Media, but we still keep in touch. And that's about all I have to say about that. It's unfortunate, but that's game development, and I'm going to be talking more about that in my next video blog. Now, I put a little something in the last video blog which apparently nobody ever saw. If you actually watched through, if you sat there for 10 seconds through the credits, there was a little clip at the end with a quote from a video game, and I was expecting someone to, you know, hear that and tell me what the video game was. It's not a very hard quote to identify. The quote was from Full Throttle, and nobody, you know, won that particular little contest. So I'm warning you up front this time. There's something after the credits. There'll always be something after the credits. So, you know, just hold your horses and tell me if you can identify what game it's from. It's this little game we're going to play. It's not that big a deal. Hope you like it. Once again, this is Viridian. Thanks for watching. Oh, I feel it. I feel the cosmos.